Which president was the main author of the Declaration of Independence? Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, George Washington. Abraham Lincoln. Who was the first president to live in the White House? George Washington, James Madison, John Adams. John Adams. Which president was responsible for the Indian Removal Act of 1830? Andrew Jackson, James Monroe, Martin Van Buren. Andrew Jackson. Which president led the nation through the Civil War? James Buchanan, Abraham Lincoln, Ulysses S. Grant. Abraham Lincoln. Which president is famous for the quote, "Speak softly and carry a big stick"? Franklin D. Roosevelt, Woodrow Wilson, Theodore Roosevelt. Franklin D. Roosevelt. Which president oversaw the end of World War II? Harry S. Truman, Herbert Hoover, Franklin D. Roosevelt. Harry S. Truman. Which president signed the Civil Rights Act of 1964? John F. Kennedy, Lyndon B. Johnson, Dwight D. Eisenhower. Lyndon B. Johnson. Which president resigned in the wake of the Watergate scandal? Richard Nixon, Gerald Ford, Jimmy Carter. Richard Nixon. Which president was a famous Hollywood actor before entering politics? Ronald Reagan, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Clint Eastwood. Ronald Reagan. Who was the first president to be born after the signing of the Declaration of Independence? James K. Polk, Martin Van Buren, John Tyler. Martin Van Buren. Can you name the president associated with this nickname? Honest Abe. Abraham Lincoln. Can you name the president associated with this nickname? The Rail Splitter. Abraham Lincoln. Which president installed a bowling alley in the White House? Harry S. Truman, Franklin D. Roosevelt, Richard Nixon. Harry S. Truman. Which president's portrait appears on the $20 bill? George Washington, Ulysses S. Grant, Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson. Which president was the heaviest, weighing over 300 pounds? William Howard Taft, Grover Cleveland, Franklin D. Roosevelt. William Howard Taft. Which president had a pet raccoon named Rebecca? Calvin Coolidge, Warren G. Harding, Herbert Hoover. Calvin Coolidge. Who is this president? Barack Obama. Can you guess who this president is? Donald Trump. Who served as the Vice President of the United States during Bill Clinton's presidency? Al Gore. Do you know this president? Abraham Lincoln. What is the name of this president? Joe Biden. How about this one? George Washington. True or false? William Henry Harrison died in office after serving the shortest term as president. True. Henry Harrison died of pneumonia on April 4, 1841. He was president for 31 days. Herbert Hoover was president during the Civil War. True or false? False. Abraham Lincoln was president during the Civil War. Is this true or false? The New Deal was a series of programs designed to combat the Great Depression. True. George H.W. Bush served 2 terms as president. True or false? True. Richard Nixon was the only president to be impeached. Can you verify its truth? False. Richard Nixon resigned before he was impeached, although there has been 3 presidents who were impeached, with Donald Trump being impeached twice in 1 term. Is this statement correct? The Cuban Missile Crisis happened during the presidency of Dwight D. Eisenhower. False. John F. Kennedy was president during the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962. Does this hold true? Jimmy Carter was known for his focus on human rights. True. True or false? Bill Clinton was the first Democratic president elected after Ronald Reagan. True. Is this statement true? Barack Obama was the first African-American president of the United States. True. Donald Trump served 1 term as president. True or false? True. Who is known as the father of the Constitution? James Madison. What amendment abolished slavery? The 13th Amendment. Which president authorized the use of the atomic bomb on Japan? Harry S. Truman. The space race intensified during the presidency of which president? John F. Kennedy. Which president famously declared, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall"? Ronald Reagan. Can you name the president associated with this nickname? Teddy. Theodore Roosevelt. Consider this scenario. You discover that a highly trusted member of your cabinet has committed a serious but nonviolent crime. This individual is a key ally, and their exposure could potentially destabilize the government. Now, faced with this ethical conundrum, what course of action would you choose? Would you prioritize maintaining order by covering up the crime, or would you opt for transparency, exposing the wrongdoing despite the potential consequences? Share your thoughts in the comment section. Imagine this scenario. Your nation is teetering on the brink of civil war, torn apart by internal conflict between 2 major groups. As violence escalates and tensions soar, leaders from both sides approach you, demanding your public condemnation of the other faction. They warn that failure to comply will only lead to further bloodshed. Now, faced with this critical decision, do you risk exacerbating the divide by taking sides, or do you pursue a path of neutrality in an attempt to broker peace? Now, for our final scenario, consider this. A startling revelation surfaces about a former president, once revered by the public, having committed significant ethical violations during their tenure. While the nation has since progressed, uncovering these transgressions threatens to shatter the trust in the presidency and plunge the political landscape into turmoil once more. Do you advocate for transparency, risking upheaval for the sake of accountability? Or do you prioritize stability, choosing to keep the past buried? We're eager to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Which president had the largest number of children? John Tyler, Franklin D. Roosevelt, Warren G. Harding. John Tyler, 15 children. During which president's term was the iconic song Hail to the Chief first played at the White House? James K. Polk, John Adams, Zachary Taylor. James K. Polk. Which president had a pet alligator while in the White House? Herbert Hoover, John Quincy Adams, Martin Van Buren. John Quincy Adams. Which president was a champion wrestler in his youth? Abraham Lincoln, Ulysses S. Grant, Grover Cleveland. Abraham Lincoln. Which president is credited with popularizing the tradition of pardoning a turkey on Thanksgiving? John F. Kennedy, Harry S. Truman, Ronald Reagan. John F. Kennedy. Which president got stuck in the White House bathtub? William Howard Taft, Chester A. Arthur, Millard Fillmore. William Howard Taft. Which president famously said, "The only thing we have to fear is fear itself"? Franklin D. Roosevelt, Woodrow Wilson, Herbert Hoover. Franklin D. Roosevelt. Which American president was inaugurated in 1789, marking the beginning of the United States as an independent nation? George Washington, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson. George Washington. Who signed the Voting Rights Act of 1965 into law during his presidency? Lyndon B. Johnson, John F. Kennedy, Richard Nixon. Lyndon B. Johnson. Which president's assassination inspired intense national mourning and solidified his place in history? Abraham Lincoln, John F. Kennedy, Malcolm X. Abraham Lincoln. Which president won the election of 1824 despite not securing the popular vote? John Quincy Adams, Andrew Jackson, James Monroe. John Quincy Adams. Who was the first president to be elected without any prior public office experience? Donald Trump, Herbert Hoover, Dwight D. Eisenhower. Donald Trump. Which president was elected by a landslide victory, capturing all but 6 states in the Electoral College? Richard Nixon, Ronald Reagan, Franklin D. Roosevelt. Richard Nixon. Who was the sole president to serve 2 non-consecutive terms? Grover Cleveland, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison. Grover Cleveland. Which president's victory in the 1860 election led to the secession of several southern states and the outbreak of the Civil War? Abraham Lincoln, James Buchanan, Ulysses S. Grant. Abraham Lincoln. Who holds the distinction of being the youngest individual ever elected to the presidency of the United States? Theodore Roosevelt, John F. Kennedy, Franklin Pierce. John F. Kennedy. Which president won the 2000 election despite losing the popular vote, triggering a contentious recount in Florida? George W. Bush, Al Gore, Bill Clinton. George Walker Bush. Who was the president during the Great Depression and faced criticism for his handling of the economy? Richard Nixon, Herbert Hoover, Jimmy Carter. John F. Kennedy. Which president faced impeachment proceedings in 1998 over allegations of perjury and obstruction of justice related to a scandal involving a White House intern? Bill Clinton, George H.W. Bush, Ronald Reagan. Bill Clinton.